Disclaimer: the images and clips you are about to see are owned by New Line Cinema, who are also owned by Warner Brothers. Please support the official release by buying DVDs, Blu-rays, or watching on streaming services. Thank you. Hi. So today, we're going to start looking at a series of movies this April for two reasons. One, April Fool's, so I figured April's the best time to look at comedies. And second, I don't know, these are some of the funniest movies I've ever watched growing up, because in my house, we always watch these films at least like once a year. And those films being, if you haven't read the title and clicked on by accident, Austin Powers. Yeah, just this weird little fun comedy from the 90s that, to me, I still find hilarious, but I don't know, after all these years, does it still hold up? Like, I know I still think it does, but what about all of you at home who haven't seen these movies in a long time? Well, let's put on the movie and see if it's still funny or if it's aged poorly. The movie starts off in 1967, somewhere outside Las Vegas, where we see an evil mastermind looking over his minions who have angered him due to their constant failures. And you want to know what happens when he gets angry?
People die!
However, he does end up sparing two of them, mostly for the purpose of killing his arch nemesis, Austin Powers. And speaking of Austin Powers, we get introduced to him, and for a guy who's supposed to be like a super spy, I think he's pretty bad at his job, because aren't they supposed to be like, oh, I don't know, like inconspicuous and hard to find? This guy's a full-on celebrity. We even get this big opening dance number with him, where he then bails on the crowd with his partner, Miss Kensington. Then they get a call from someone named Basil Exposition, kind of a funny name, where they hear that Dr. Evil is in a swingers club nearby, and when they go to investigate, they party for a bit, until Austin gets the idea to punch a waitress. Mostly because the waitress is actually one of Dr. Evil's minions in disguise. And when they try to question him, Dr. Evil shoots him dead, so they decide to just go follow him. However, he ends up freezing himself and shooting himself off into space inside of a fast food mascot called Big Boy. Then it cuts to 30 years later, where the US military catches wind of Dr. Evil's return until he eventually disappears on radar. But luckily for them, they were prepared, because back in England, Austin Powers willingly put himself in cryostasis until Dr. Evil were to come back. Then we get a montage of him getting like unfrozen, leading to a joke where he's constantly peeing for an uncomfortable amount of time. But when everything's finished, he gets up to speed on what's been happening in the last 30 years, or the fact that he's back in action to fight Dr. Evil. Then Austin gets excited, thinking about working with Miss Kensington again. But she's retired and will be working with her daughter, Vanessa, who he starts flirting with immediately, and she doesn't really seem too impressed by it, and informs him that her job right now is to get him up to speed in the 90s. Then we get a scene where he starts picking up items he had in storage while frozen, and one of the items is a dick pump, which they keep joking about to the point where it shows he wrote a whole book about it. Back in somewhere in Las Vegas, we see Dr. Evil reuniting with his minions, and is very unhappy with what happened to his cast when he was thawed out from cryostasis. So as punishment, he burns the guy alive who made the technology, but he refuses to die, so he calls someone in to shoot him. Then we get introduced to a second-hand man, number 2, who has kept his evil organization running for the past 30 years, and then Dr. Evil comes up with his first evil plan, which involves blackmailing a royal family, but number 2 points out the scandal he planned for already happened. So he comes up with another idea to change the weather that caused global warming, but like before, number 2 tells him that also happened. So he decides to just go back to the classics.
Oh, hell, let's just do what we always do. Hijack some nuclear weapons and hold the world hostage.
And with these weapons, he plans to hold the world ransom for the low, low price of
$1 million.
But then number 2 points out that his evil organization makes way more than that in a year, so he jacks up the price to $100 billion. Then we cut to Austin's private jet where Vanessa tries to get him to sign some paperwork, but all he really does is make sexual advances toward her to the point where it escalates and she ends up snapping at him. And she makes a good point that, yeah, the stuff he did back in the 60s was acceptable, but in the 90s, not so much, and he unfortunately blows this off. Then we cut back to Dr. Evil, where his henchwoman Frau points out they froze his semen to clone him in case he didn't come back, and they got a little impatient and used it, and now he has a son named Scott who doesn't really want anything to do with him, which makes him cry, and even runs from him during his attempts to try and bond with him. Then we cut back to Austin and Vanessa, who just made their way to Las Vegas, where they then check into a hotel room under the cover of a newlywed couple while Austin continues to hit on her. And when they make their way to the casino, Vanessa tells Austin that they have to look out for people who work for VirtueCom, who apparently are owned by Dr. Evil. And when they make their way over to their first casino game, apparently that's where number 2 is, along with a woman whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce because it's kind of a sexual innuendo. And after he beats Austin, he goes to the bathroom with Austin not following far behind, leading to a funny bit where one of Dr. Evil's minions tries to choke him to death, and the guy in the next stall misinterprets that as him trying to take a huge dump, leading to this funny line after Austin takes him out.
Jesus Christ, boy! What did you eat?
We then cut back to Dr. Evil, who now has a nuclear weapon, and then he calls the United Nations, threatening them, and of course giving his demands of $100 billion, where he then hangs up to add suspense, leading to him and his evil group just laughing maniacally until they get bored of doing it. Then we cut to outside VirtueCom, where we see Austin and Vanessa doing recon work, and Austin actually recognizes Dr. Evil's cat. But then out of nowhere, he asks her out on a night on the town, and I don't know why, she actually agrees to it, and given how Austin's been treating her, I'm still shocked she said yes. But then back at the hotel, while drunk, she does offer to kiss him, but surprisingly, Austin says no, showing that despite his actions earlier, he does have some semblance of human decency. But then Austin gets a call from Basil asking him to look into something called Project Vulcan at number 2's assistant's penthouse, and thankfully he is able to get the intel as well as doing other things with her, which I will not get into at the risk of getting demonetized in the future. Then we cut back to Dr. Evil, where his associate Frau introduces her latest weapon to defeat Austin Powers, and her weapon is robot women called Fembots. Okay, that's kind of a clever name. And their main weapon is having guns in their chest, and yeah, given Austin's personality, I can see this weapon working pretty well, and even Dr. Evil's impressed. Then we cut back to Austin and Vanessa meeting up with British intelligence, where Vanessa starts introducing some new gadgets that are mostly disguised as dental equipment, and Austin hands in the plans for Project Vulcan he got at the penthouse. All this leading to a bit where he punches Basil's mom in the face and tries to rip off her hair, and Austin's reason for doing this is because she was ugly. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said that wasn't hilarious. Then as things with Austin and Vanessa start to get, well, pretty good, he accidentally admits to sleeping with number 2's associate to get the plans for Project Vulcan, and Vanessa isn't really too happy about this and starts scolding him because of his lifestyle, and given how he was starting to like her, it's now starting to kick in that maybe his way of living in the 60s isn't as accepted as it used to be. And this is emphasized more when we get a little montage of him going out and seeing that people kind of mock how he dresses and acts, and even with modern stuff, he can't really seem to adjust to it properly, and unfortunately starts writing a list of people he once knew who are now gone. Then the next morning, they go to VirtueCom disguised as tourists, and it's here where Austin apologizes, and it's kind of a weird place to do it, but Vanessa somehow forgives them, and they disguise themselves as employees and try to sneak into the base, leading to one of my favorite moments from the movie, and it's not really much. They just steal a steamroller, and they're the one guard who could easily just move out of the way, but he's just standing there screaming. But long story short, they run him over and then bail, making me wonder why they even took the vehicle. But then one of Dr. Evil's minions takes them in, where we then cut to his secret underground lair, and he ends up showing off the nuclear warhead he stole to the United Nations, and he tells him his plan is to use it to cause every volcano on the planet to erupt, giving the UN no choice but to pay his ransom. Ending with a pretty funny bit where he tries to hang up, but he accidentally puts on Beavis and Butthead before he gets frustrated and eventually figures it out. Then we see him having dinner with Austin, where he proceeds to put him in an what he describes as an overly elaborate but easily escapable death trap, which he was hoping would be killer sharks with lasers on their heads. But number 2 points out that while he was frozen, sharks were put on the endangered species list, and getting through all the legal trouble just to even get sharks for this plan would have taken too long. So they're going to be dropped into a vat full of killer sea bass that have been mutated. And he doesn't even bother watching to see how it all plays out, which annoys his son, saying that he could easily just shoot them, but he says it's part of being evil, and that he doesn't get it. And as was established, it was pretty easy to escape, and Austin, after kind of killing the one guard with the sea bass, he makes a bunch of head jokes, which Vanessa quickly gets tired of. So they go to find an escape hatch so Vanessa can go and get help, while Austin stays behind to look after Dr. Evil, and before she goes, he actually tells her that he's sorry for what he did earlier and wishes to be a better man for her, which I'll admit is kind of nice of him. And then he goes off to look for Dr. Evil, where he is currently planning on going to the main room to watch his evil plan go into action, while his son shows interest. But unbeknownst to them, Austin is hot on their trail. Don't worry, he figures it out, but unfortunately he runs into the fembots, who actually work pretty well against him and distract him from his goals. But thankfully Vanessa already shows that she does have troops ready on hand to go save him and stop Dr. Evil. But then we get a really weird scene where Austin defeats the fembots by dancing and slowly stripping naked, and this for some reason causes all of them to just blow up one by one. And when Vanessa comes and sees, well, the aftermath, he has to awkwardly explain what happened, and thankfully she believes him. All leading to a big action sequence, which is kind of fun to watch, seeing as how they have the song Secret Agent Man playing. And thankfully, Austin is able to hit the abort sequence and save the world, and when he catches up to Dr. Evil, he says this to him.
We're not so different, you and I.
Yeah, remember this. This will be important later. But then we see Vanessa being held hostage, so Austin in response takes Dr. Evil's kid as a hostage, who he doesn't really care about, which saddens him. But then number 2 comes in saying he's betraying Dr. Evil, leading to him getting incinerated and Dr. Evil hitting the self-destruct just so he can escape in cryostasis again. But thankfully everyone else makes out just in time before the place blows up. Then it cuts to 3 months later. So, just to be safe, I'm not going to show what happens, but I will describe it. And the reason I'm doing this is because, yeah, Austin and Vanessa are just flat out butt naked for most of this part. So, long story short, they got married, Vanessa got promoted, everyone's happy. But then something happens. But then they get attacked by one of Dr. Evil's last remaining henchmen, who thankfully doesn't take very long to take out. Though they go out stargazing, where Austin notices something, and it's actually Dr. Evil's spaceship, where it cuts to him inside freezing for cryostasis, claiming he'll get Austin Powers next time. And that was Austin Powers, and I gotta say, it's still a fun movie. Like, yeah, I know if you're, I don't know, offended easily, you might not like it, but if you actually enjoy comedy, I think you'll have a good time still. And yeah, there's a lot to this movie I find interesting. Like, for one, Austin and Dr. Evil both played by the same actor. Who would have guessed? And there's a lot of deleted scenes in this movie. And I bring this up because the DVD does have some of them, but I found out in recent years there's actually an extended cut to this movie. Yeah, I believe in Region 2 territories, like, there is an extended cut where some of the deleted scenes were put back in, along with another one that's kind of hard to find on its own. Like, one of the funniest deleted scenes, at least to me, is, like, whenever they kill a henchman, in most movies, they would just brush it off and go, okay, it was just a henchman. But no, in this, they would cut to the friends and families of those people learning they died, showing that, yeah, despite being mindless grunts, they did have lives, which is kind of messed up, but I can see why that would be funny. Well, now that we've had our fun, come back next time we look at the next Austin Powers movie. Take care.